ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to the class. So last week we discussed up to verse number 13. So last few verses talked about the demigod worship and how the Varna system existed. What is Varna and Ashrama system? We discussed that in depth. So today we'll discuss concepts of Karma Yoga as delineated in the next 7-8 verses. So verse number 14. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spriha iti mam yo bijanati karma bher nasapadyate. Yeah. Who can read for me? Archana Mataji is there. Can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work.
Right. So Krishna is explaining his position. Namam karmani limpanti. There is no work that affects me. So whatever works that happen in this existence, it does not create any kind of reaction or bondage to Krishna. Right? Namam karmani limpanti, because he is above, he is beyond this existence. Right? So nothing, no work affects him. Nor do I aspire for fruits of action. Neither is he name karma phale spriha, meaning I'm not interested in specific work. If some people say Krishna inspired Pandavas for the war, right? But it's not for his own joy or pleasure. So he is not fruitive in his actions, right? So he wanted to establish dharma, so that is his aspiration. So he does not aspire for any fruits of action in this existence. Itimam yobijanati karmabhir nasabhadyate. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruits of action. This is basically understanding of the Krishna's nature. Krishna is not like one of us. He is the Supreme Lord. When one understands Krishna like that, like nothing in this existence really binds him, right? He does not aspire for any fruits of action. When he seemingly acts in this world, it is for the pleasure of the devotees. It is for the establishment of dharma, but not for his own. He's not like anybody else, anyone else in this world. Generally, aspire for fruits of, and so naturally that those works will bind him. Right? If it is not, uh, if it is done with some fruitive mentality, meaning to enjoy the fruits, so that the actions will bind such person. But when it comes to Krishna, it does not bind. None of the actions in this existence, either by him or by inspired by his words, they do not bind the executor. One who understands this nature of Krishna, that he is above and beyond the material rules, or karmic rules of this existence, he also will not get bound by fruitive actions of work. So basically, one who understands the transcendental nature of Lord, his actions also will become transcendental. Nimittamatram evasau srijyanam sargakarmani pradhana karanibhuta yato vai srijya saktaya. In the material creations, the Lord is the only supreme cause. The immediate cause is the material nature by which the cosmic manifestation is made possible. So Lord is the supreme cause of all actions. Like if anybody does anything, he is the supreme cause because he is the facilitator. For example, so rains fall on different parts of lands, for example, right? So there are some lands where there will be nice vegetables grow. There will be some barren lands where nothing would grow. But rain is neutral, right? So rain is neutral, it falls on every land, but different results come out from different places based on how the specific individuals cultivate the land versus not, right? Lord is the supreme cause for any action, but he is only um, a neutral facilitator. He's not so naturally he will not be bound by the reactions. One's own individual's desires and actions pertaining to that will actually result in the karmic bondage for that individual. Even though one can say the supreme cause is Lord for everything, like somebody murders, the supreme cause is Lord in one sense, because he created this nature and all the facilities in this existence, but he's not the immediate cause. Immediate cause is the person who violates the law, and because he violates, he is the one who is going to get the karmic reactions accordingly. Is that concept clear? Sometimes people blame why there is natural calamities, right? Many people in this world, if God exists, why there is coronavirus, right? We hear these kind of arguments, did we not? What do you all think? Anybody has any answer on what, why there is some kind of calamities in this world? If God is all loving, all caring, and all powerful, why there is calamities in this world?
Because this is a jail kind of arrangement, and he does not want us to stay here permanently.
Okay, so but in that sense, Lord is becoming cruel in this sense because he's
हो
he's
सकता
causing
हरे
pain.
कृष्ण प्रभु
Oh, I'm getting some sound.
हाँ हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
हो सकता है ये भी भगवान की कोई लीला हो
Yeah, but actually he is not responsible for that.
नहीं रेस्पॉन्सिबल जरूरी नहीं है ना
Yeah, responsible
जब
जरूरी नहीं, लेकिन but even that makes Lord merciless, right? Because his children are suffering. How do we explain that?
लेकिन भगवान कर्म में तो इंटरफेयर करते भी नहीं है
Exactly, yeah. So
तो हाँ वो तो है मतलब दयावान लेकिन हाँ कर्मों में तो वो हस्तक्षेप नहीं करेंगे
he does not interfere. It is based on the actions of individual, specific reactions come. He is in that sense neutral. For example, in a court, somebody may get uh, in a trial, a person may get charged for murder, and he may be punished for imprisonment for the lifetime. Another person in the same court by the same judge will be awarded $1 million, right? So judge himself is a neutral personality in that whole incident, in the trial. He is just facilitating the law of the land, right? He's just following the law of the land and, facilitating the situation so that everybody, there is justice, right? So similarly, everything that happens in this existence is the collective karma of the individuals. It's not because of, Lord wants or not. It's not by the Lord's desire. He's a neutral facilitator, right? That is the best position to be in, right? For the Lord, instead of being partial to anyone, right? At the same time, in the previous verse, if you remember, yayatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. As one surrendered unto me, I reward them accordingly. Meaning he is reciprocal. He is neutral as well as reciprocal. If you worship him, the response will be different, because it is your choice you made to actually worship him. So that shows that he is a personality, right? If you love some person, that person is stoic, it doesn't move at all. That is very unexpected, right? So if you love some person, if that person loves you back, then there is reciprocation. So this verse actually shows that Lord is reciprocal, in the sense that Lord is a personality, right? He has feelings, and he reciprocates according to one's individual submission. In this sense here, the downward verse that talks about Lord's neutrality. For laws, neutrality is the best position to be in, right? For example, gravitation force is there, and you drop an object, it always falls down. If you draw, if a boy jumps out, the same law applies and he also falls. But that is, we don't want that to happen, right? But that will happen anyway, because that's the law, right? One has chosen to jump, and accordingly the result will come. So in laws, the principle of neutrality works best. So when there is law of karma established within the material existence, Lord's position is one of neutral, meaning he is a facilitator and he is the ultimate cause of everything, but he still remains neutral. One's own actions will result in the reactions accordingly, right? But in terms of one's relation to him, he is reciprocal, meaning he is a personality, right? So that's how we understand these two verses.
So, Prabhu, in the last class, you also mentioned that in Bhagavatam, it is actually given, right, that the way we respond to this environment and the way we have been treating the environment, we will, as you mentioned, it's also collective karma. We will receive back, like in case of this epidemic,
Correct.
it will treat us the same. But if we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna will also make sure that he takes care of us.
Exactly, that's what. Yeah. So that is reciprocal part, and as you mentioned, the collective karma basically comes back upon us, right? Based on our own collective actions.
Yeah.
There will be reactions in the nature, because that works according to the laws of the material nature in this existence, and Lord doesn't interfere in the laws, right? One gets his due according to his own past karma, or a collective karma of the country, or different countries will actually have different reactions also, right? For example, India had more severe reaction compared to other countries with the corona, right? You see, so in the land of dharma, that always happens. The reactions are always severe, because India is considered, punya bhumi or dharma bhumi.
Correct.
And meaning the people who are born are supposed to act, more in harmony with nature. If there is violation there, the reactions will be severe compared to any other place. And that's exactly how we understand why there is more severe reaction in India versus other countries. For example, if a dog violates a law, the punishment is less, or it won't be even punished. If a dog, crosses the road at the wrong signal, I mean, nobody would give a ticket to the dog. But if an individual, rushes his car while the traffic signal is on, where he's supposed to stop, the red signal, he will be given a ticket, right? Because he's supposed to act responsibly. He's an evolved individual compared to an animal. So I'm not, saying other countries are, relatively less in importance, but from, as for scriptures, land of India is supposed to be very responsible compared to any other land.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Evam jnatva kritam karma purvai api mumukshubhi kuru karmaiva tasmat tvam purvai purvataram kritam. Yeah, can anyone read for me? Sweta Mataji. Sweta Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps.
So Krishna is advising Arjuna that all the liberated souls in the ancient times acted with this understanding. What is the understanding? The understanding of Krishna's nature. Krishna is not an ordinary living entity like us. Right? For example, sometimes president visits jail, doesn't mean he is also one of the jailer. He is one of the inmate of the jail. Right? He is just coming there to help the individuals who are, in the jail. So similarly, when Lord comes to this world, some people foolishly think he is also like one of us. He cannot have, he cannot be beyond us. They think, he is one of us. Many even think he is just a powerful king. So many speculations are there. But here clearly says, all the liberated souls, all, meaning if you are liberated, it means that you cannot have a different understanding about the nature of the Lord. Right? All the liberated souls are included in that. In ancient times, acted with this understanding of the nature of the Lord. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. Now, how to perform those duties will be given in the next several verses. We'll go directly into that. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopi atra mohita tatte karma pravakshyami yajnatva mokshase subhat. Kim karma kim akarmeti means what is right, what is wrong, or what is the right action, what is inaction. Akarma means inaction. That even the most intelligent will not understand. Let someone read. Nitin Prabhu, are you here?
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu.
Can you read?
Yes, Prabhu. Even the intelligents are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what is action, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune.
So Krishna is clearly telling even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. So karma, what does the word karma literally mean? Karma has several meanings. So Krishna, what is the meaning of karma? What are the different meanings of karma we all understand? Let's discuss that. Anyone want to say?
Karma is prescribed duties as per the scriptures.
Yeah, prescribed duty. And in what other context karma is used? Say this is your karma, right? Sometimes we say. Somebody
Or
can say.
like whatever we are like got educated with some degree and we are doing some job, so I'm doing that job to fulfill
Destiny.
my family's needs, maybe.
Hmm.
Whatever
Karma.
destiny.
That's
Yeah, the second meaning is
Karma.
destiny. Third meaning is one's duties. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Bad fortune, Prabhu.
Yeah, misfortune also is referred to as, that is your misfortune, karma. Yeah, that's also there. And also anything else?
Good
Even
karma,
even good
good
karma.
karma, bad karma, and akarma. There are 3 types, right?
Yeah, the three types. Yeah, but literally the word karma is used in different contexts to mean differently. Sometimes it just refers to laws of karma. Sometimes it refers to the reaction of karma, reaction of action. Right? This is because of your karma. This is happening like that, either good or bad. Or in general duties, right? So these are the different meanings of the word karma. And what is inaction? Anyone knows? Anyone want to say?
Not
Service
doing
to God.
Hmm?
Service to God.
Service to
Ser-
God. Or
yes.
is it action or not? Is it some karma? Like you
It's,
perform?
it's akarma. So whatever you are doing for sake of God, service or volunteering in the temple, these are all comes under akarma, right?
Correct. Yeah, that is true. Directly volunteering in the temple is akarma, but you can also be working in akarmic fashion when you have the right understanding. Right? When you think you are the doer, then it becomes karmic. But when you don't have that false ego, that when you consider yourself as an agent of God in every action you do, even that is also non-binding or akarma. It need not be only in the temple and directly service to the temple Lord. It can be your own duties, prescribed duties, cooking. You're cooking in the home. That can also be akarma, right? Because you are cooking primarily thinking that this will be for the pleasure of God. That's how you think, and you actually offer it after cooking to God, and then you partake in the prasadam, right? So that is also inaction or a karma action which does not bind you. In fact, it actually liberates your actions. You have any bondages that were there because of your previous actions, those will be burnt out by inaction. So not only that, you go to office, but you always consider, okay, all this effort that I'm doing is service to Lord, and ultimately it is meaning whatever income I get, I use it for the right purpose, to raise children nicely, to educate them, or to serve Lord in the temple, or to buy flowers, or so your idea of using that money is not for your enjoyment. Oh, I'll go drink wine, or or enjoy this, that. So you don't have that kind of mentality, then it is a karma. Any action that does not result in reaction. Now Krishna will further explain the next verses what includes this, because this is very important. Why? Knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. And the interesting part is the most intelligent are also bewildered by in understanding what is actually action and what is inaction. I'll tell you a story. After Kurukshetra war is over, right? All the soldiers were killed on both sides. Kauravas were killed. Ashwadhama on that night, just taking revenge of Pandavas, he actually goes and murders all the children of Draupadi right before everybody's eyes. He slaughters them. All the Upapandavas were killed, meaning the next generation was stopped. His idea is, oh, now Kauravas cannot rule. Let Pandavas also, there should not be any progeny left. Right? He finally knows that Uttara has her baby in the womb, and he tries to release a Brahmastra the next day. Now, looking at all of this, Yudhishthira Maharaj, the eldest of all the Pandavas, he was quite bewildered. he thinks in his mind, all this misfortune of killing all these soldiers and all these kings of the world was all done for my own enjoyment. So now I'm going to be bound by this action, this vulgar actions that I have done to kill all these soldiers of this world and all the kings of this world. While he was thinking like that, he actually says, I'm going to leave this place. Bhima, you are the next one. You rule the world. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to the forest and renounce everything. And I'll try to atone for my bad actions that I have done to kill all the, in killing all these people of this world. Then Bhima looks at him in rage, he becomes very, very upset with his brother's idea. Hey, Yudhishthira, you know all of this from beginning, and you were actually preparing all of us for this war. Now you're saying you are the one to leave first, and and you want me to rule. I won't rule. I'm not interested in ruling, because you are the one to initiate all of this. You should only stay and rule the country. So in this, a lot of argument goes between brothers, and they cannot come to any understanding. Finally, Krishna advises they wouldn't listen to that. I mean, they cannot come to a conclusion. Finally, all of them go to Bhishma. Actually, Bhishma, everybody assembles at Bhishma, and Bhishma would speak with them, and he clarifies. Nobody really understands what is the right action. It's very difficult to understand what is right action, but ultimately his conclusion is one who follows the will of the Lord. He is acting in the right disposition. So he quotes nice verses whereby he says, see, I am always a servant of God, but I am now, he's a eternally liberated soul, Bhishma Dev. He's actually Mahajan, meaning one who is supposed to follow his footsteps to understand the path of religion. So this Mahajan Bhishma, actually he says, look at me, I am working in the opponent party, even though I know what is right. I'm actually fighting against the Lord. Do you think I have any chances to win? In fact, he's the the best warrior in the entire battlefield is Bhishma Dev, but he says like that. And according to him, it is actually the will of the Lord that he is actually fighting on the opposite side to Lord. Okay? Lord, through him, he wants to teach a lesson to the world that even if you are the greatest warrior, if you are actually against acting in the wrong party, against Dharma, you are going to certainly lose the battle. So that is the teaching that Lord wants to, deliver to the world through him, and he becomes an agent for that. He is in perfect harmony with the Lord. He understands. He's a, now I know why, Lord has come actually to, in that assembly when Bhishma actually speaks wonderful instructions to Yudhishthira in this episode. Actually, in Bhagavatam, it is very vividly described. In Mahabharata also. So in that episode, now you look at, my fortune is that now before leaving the body, I have the Supreme Lord, the same Lord Vasudev, who I have always meditated upon all my life. Now he is, before leaving my body, he's actually right before my eyes. That is my greatest fortune. So in this way, he explains that one should actually follow the footsteps of the Lord, or one should follow the instructions of the Lord, as given in for us, Lord is not directly available. So through the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, he is available, or through the instructions of people who have understood Bhagavad Gita and share with us. Through them, we actually see what is right. Yeah. Any questions on this? So anyway, we'll further discuss the actual instructions.
So, Prabhuji, I was actually confused by the definition of inaction. I was thinking inaction is not doing your karma or your duties. Is that not the case? So, inaction here is the same as nishkama karma, is it?
Yeah, in this case, it is actually nishkam karma. Inaction, literal meaning of inaction is not performing any action, right? But inaction can also mean not performing any work means there is no reaction, right? Literally, the response to such a thing is there is no reaction, right? So the important thing to understand about inaction is there is no reaction. It could be you could be acting or not acting, but literally the result of that action is that you're not getting any reaction, negative reaction or positive reaction. So
Okay.
it's based on the result, not based on the action, right? When you act, there is a result. Now, when there is no result, good or bad, that is an inaction. That's how this is. Next verses actually clarify these concepts very clearly. Let's
Okay.
go.
प्रभु जी हेलो
Yeah, yes, Mataji.
हाँ तो अकर्म फिर क्या आसक्ति रहित होकर कर्म करना अकर्म है या कर्म की दिशा को भगवान की तरफ मोड़ देना अकर्म है?
Can you clarify, Mataji, English? I'm not very good at Hindi. If you don't mind.
And I'm not good at English. Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
No.
Okay,
I think. Can you ask again? Maybe I'll understand this time better. Yeah.
अकर्म क्या है? जब आसक्ति रहित होकर कर्म करना.
Oh, without interest, working without attachment.
तो ना राग होगा ना द्वेष होगा तो कर्म का जो आप बोल रहे हो कि रिएक्शन वो होगा ही नहीं.
Correct. Yes.
तो वो है अकर्म या फिर अकर्म वो है जब आप कर्म की दिशा भगवान की तरफ मोड़.
Very nice question. Yeah, I get your question now. So
Can I repeat Prabhu question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I got it. You can clarify if my question, my understanding is right.
Yeah.
Is akarma?
नहीं वो समझ तो आ जाएगा मुझे.
Yeah, let me clarify the question. Is akarma action that is done without any motivation or personal interest, or is akarma or inaction action that is directed towards the pleasure of the Lord? Is that right?
Yes, Prabhu. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Both are inactions. The first one, where there is no redirection to God. One acts just understanding that I am not the enjoyer. I don't know who is the enjoyer, but I am not the enjoyer. I act without any attachment. That is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. It also results in inaction, no binding. The second one, that is called Nishkama Karma.
निष्काम कर्म ही कर्म योग हो गया.
Yeah. When Nishkama Karma matures with the understanding that actually all the work is done for the pleasure of the Lord, right? Then that becomes bhakti. Right? Suppose somebody is serving in the hotel, right? He is serving the clients very well. He does not have any personal motive, always on top of the duty. If any tip comes, he just gives it to the owner, but he does not have any relationship with the owner, right?
लेकिन भक्ति में तो प्रेम भाव
भक्ति में भाव होता है. Yeah, the manager के. Now you do all of this, just like this person who is neutral to the Lord. He has no attachment to the Lord. That is Nishkama Karma Yoga. If that person understands, okay, my boss likes me to serve in this way, in a pleasing way, and he does all of that the other servant is doing, who is very duty bound, one who does dutifully without any personal motivation, That is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now that extend that with the concept of Lord, right? The personality of God, and doing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. Again, there is no personal agenda here in the second one. That is bhakti. Is that clear? So bhakti includes Nishkama Karma Yoga. Bhakti also has something more, which is, प्रेम की भावना है भगवान के साथ. Is that clear, Mataji? Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So they're very close, and bhakti must include Nishkama Karma Yoga. If not, then it is, of course, not all of us in the beginning may not have such motivation, but completely selflessly acting is not an easy thing. But God becomes a very good anchor to easily practice Nishkam Karma Yoga. That is the positiveness of Bhakti Yoga. You have a good anchor to practice Nishkama Karma Yoga compared to pure practitioner of Nishkam Karma Yoga, whereby there is no anchor. For example, you are drowning, somehow you fell in the dark ditch, dark well. Now you know how to climb up, and you want to climb up, and you try to hold on to the rock that is available nearby, and trying to somehow climb. That is all your own effort, right? Now compare that to, suppose somebody saw that you fell and he actually dropped a rope, and you just need to hold on to it and try to put some little effort in the direction. So that is Bhakti Yoga, where you have an anchor or support system, right? So in that sense, that's why here Krishna is acting as an anchor for Pandavas, right? And all the Pandavas are Bhakti Yogis. Yeah. So the story I explained about Bhishma, just to explain the intricacies of action, right? It's very difficult to understand what is right, what is wrong. So one needs to consult scripture when in doubt. Of course, not everything, for everything we don't need to, some are very straightforward, but many times we also run into challenges on making a decision. So in that sense, in that times, we actually consult scripture or a friend who is aware of the scripture, like that. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and unauthorized actions. Yeah, this we discussed. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions, because it is a very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and actions according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. Everyone who has learned perfectly knows that living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. So entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. Karmani akarmaya pashed, akarmani cha karmaya, subuddhiman manushyesu, sayukta Krishna karma krit. Yeah. Who can read? Sagar Prabhu, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities.
A very interesting verse, right? Tongue twister. Inaction in action, action in inaction. One who can see this. Yah pashed. Pashed means see, one who can see. Karmani akarmacha. Akarmani cha karmaya. Right? One who can see akarma in karma and karma in akarma. Such person is an intelligent person. among men or living entity. And he is transcendental, he is in a transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. A person may be engaged in different activities in this world, but if he is able to see action, inaction in action. Now let's see this word, right? Inaction in action. What is inaction in action? Means one he is acting in this world, but the result of that action is there is no reaction to it. Generally, any action in this world results in reaction, good karma or bad karma, because people have attachments which motivate them to act in this world. But one who can see inaction in action, he performs action, but he can clearly see there is inaction, right? So that is non-binding. And action in inaction means one who is not acting. Inaction here literally means not acting. When somebody does not act, still he can be bound. You see? Now, why Krishna is saying this to Arjuna? Arjuna is saying in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, I don't want to fight this war. I don't want to fight this war. I want to go to forest and renounce this world. But such action is actually action in inaction. He does not want to perform his own duty as Kshatriya. Right? As a Kshatriya, he is supposed to protect dharma and rule the world. Now he wants to renounce the world and go to forest and meditate. That is action in inaction, meaning he does not want to perform his action, but that would result in reaction. Because say suppose somebody says, oh Arjuna, nobody will think great about Arjuna, because nobody thinks, oh, Arjuna was a great renunciant, he gave up the war and went to the forest, he did not fight back. Nobody will think great about you like that. Krishna says in second chapter, if you remember, everybody will think, hey, Arjuna was a coward, he could not fight back, so he ran away to the forest. That's what people think. If suppose somebody comes to forest and tells you like that, and now you are begging there, will you stay quiet? No, because your nature as warrior is there. So you're going to immediately cut his head, because you can't tolerate, because and that's not the legitimate reason why you left the war. So if somebody says like that, you're going to cut his head, because that's your Kshatriya nature. Now you're going away from your nature and giving up your duties. That's going to result in reaction. So here action is reaction. Inaction is basically not acting or not doing your duty. Right? Sometimes not performing our own duties at the hour of need will result in a reaction which is negative. Right? So if somebody is suffering, right? Somebody is suffering in this world, and you are watching it, and you are capable of helping somebody. You are a doctor and somebody fell down on the road. Immediately you have in your in your car, you have some kit that through which you can help him. Now you just ignore that person and you just go away. It is going to bind you, because you can say, oh, that is his karma, right? Some people say like that. Karma, the laws of karma is not supposed to be used in that way. It is for understanding our own, the challenges in our own life. Do we use the theory of karma? When somebody is in need, we act according to the dharma. Dharma means what is right at that moment. You have to help him. It doesn't matter why he is suffering at this point. You have seen it and you have to act according to your dharma. Right? So you have to jump into action. So similar thing happened in Mahabharata, this episode of Draupadi's disrobing. It was an assembly of all the great kings No, not all the great kings, at least the assembly of Kurus. And Bhishma was there, and all the elders of Kuru dynasty were there, and Draupadi, there was this gambling match, and Pandavas lose the match, and as part of this, the Dussasana would go ahead and try to disrobe Draupadi. Draupadi would first look at her, the mighty strong husbands, because they were already defeated, they could not help. And then she looks at Bhishma. Even Bhishma would not. Bhishma was, he would not act. And actually, that action of Bhishma was not appreciated in the scripture, because even though he's he has a reason why he says like that, but so that particular action was actually wrong at that moment. So he would not jump in to protect. He could have done that, but he didn't do that. So that is also kind of inaction. Right? When you are in a position to help, you have to act. It's not just in that context. In our own life, we can relate to this, right? So if you are in a position to help, don't just ignore. Right? So there will be reaction when we don't act properly, right? when you have the capacity to act. And the other thing is inaction. Srila Prabhupada, right? He constructed so many temples in this world. It looks like action, but all his actions were to establish temples where, even in the West, right? He came to the West, established hundreds of temples here. Through that, he was establishing Vaikunthas in this world in so many places. So even though it is an action, it is inaction. It has no negative reaction. In fact, it is giving such transcendental result for him, right? So that is inaction. Even at home, you cook for your family, but when you cook, your consciousness is that this is an offering to the Lord. So if you do that, that is also inaction. You go to work, you have the same attitude, right? I am working on behalf of Lord. Just like a soldier, why this thing works, right? For example, a soldier is fighting on behalf of the country. He goes to the border, but he is always mindful, all the shootings I do, all the things I kill, they are for the service of my country, and he will not be arrested after killing. In fact, he will be awarded. He will be, sometimes we have seen where a soldier has killed a battalion of opponents, he will be awarded Paramveer Chakra. The country would award a person who has actually murdered or killed people of the opposition side. But he is acting on behalf of the country, so country will not punish him. Now the same soldier comes to his own village and he is drunk. He comes in, gets into a spat with his neighbor. He has the gun, he knows how to shoot, now he shoots him. What is going to happen? The same soldier who got Paramveer Chakra, but he acted on his own will in this case. Now he will be arrested, right? It doesn't matter whether he was Paramveer Chakra, whatever he got in the past, that is all past. Now he acted as a murderer. So there will be, even though he killed one person, he will be jailed for lifetime or even hanged if the mistake is severe. So when you take the law into your hand, you have a reaction. But the same person who killed 100 people, the country awards, right? So now when you act on behalf of Lord, same thing, because the whole karmic principle was given by Lord. The whole, the three modes of nature, the world, everything is established. The laws of nature, everything is established by the Lord. Now, when you act in harmony with Lord, naturally, you should not have any reaction. That's exactly what happens here. So there is no reaction. Now we understand why we don't have reaction when we act on behalf of Lord. Any questions? So now both the terms are clear, right?
Yeah, one question, Prabhu. So now the corona is severe in India. Many people are coming forward and helping, like oxygen cylinders or medicines and all.
Mhm.
So is this inaction in action or action in action?
So it depends on the mentality of the person, right?
Okay.
So always, even though he's helping, if he thinks I am the helper, right? I get the credit, I did, and he boasts with others, that is not right consciousness. If he thinks that, by God's grace, I have this facility that I can use to help others, the same action, there is no reaction. The act in itself does not define whether you have the reaction or not. It is the consciousness that defines the reaction that you are going to get. Is it clear?
No, got it. Thank you.
So it is the consciousness in which you do. I do this as service to Lord. When you are acting according to dharma, it is, it's not going to result in any reaction.
And is it responsibility of people that needs to help?
I mean,
there is a help needed and you're not doing any help.
Yeah.
Is it like bounded action?
I mean, not everything will be like that, but if you can do something, that's always good. It's not your immediate duty. If it is your family member, definitely you should jump, because that is your responsibility.
Right.
If you are talking about in general, that is a still option. That's not going to bind you immediately, right? So if you are in one way or the other, you are related to some person, he is suffering, and you have an opportunity to help, definitely you should do, right, in the proper consciousness. But if he's not related to you, you're not directly responsible. But it depends on how you feel, right? It's not going to be me. But if something is happening before your eyes and it is straight that you have to help in that situation, you're not doing that, that is going to definitely bind. But in this situation, you call your family and try to ask them financial support if they need something. You do all of that. That is, that is inaction, right? That is akarma. If there is, some people doubt whether there is a right NGO, whether all the funds that you give are going to the right place, or are there corrupt people in the middle. So there are hesitations. So in that case, you try to find the best you can and do whatever you can, right? In the trusted, you cannot just even give to any random people hoping that it'll go to the right cause. If it goes to the wrong cause, again you get some reaction, by the way. There will be reaction. Yeah, suppose you send some money and that guy uses to get some cigarettes and wine, it happens, right? So that's why you should always give to the right sources. You should be mindful of that. Sometimes we are in the train, somebody comes as a beggar and he has a cigarette in his hand. Will you give him money? No, you should not give him money. You can give some food stuff like some fruits or vegetables or dinner packet. That is all right. But if you give him money, what happens? He will not use for food. He's going to use for cigarette. So that is going to bind you, because you are indirectly encouraging that person to act that way, right? To continue to smoke. So we have to be mindful in the actions we do, right? Your intention alone doesn't matter. Oh, he's poor, he needs to be helped. So my dharma is to help, and I help him in the way I can, right? So that is not right, again, in this case. So that's why it's very complicated, and it doesn't mean that we have to be always 100% calculative about this, but try to be as much as you can. Try to do in your capacity, right? Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Good. Thank you.
Prabhu, question.
Mhm.
So, Prabhu, when people normally, if there is a disaster happening and there are people who are helping them,
Hmm.
so they create a fund, and sometimes we feel, we have gut feeling that, oh, these people are good and they will utilize a fund good.
Hmm.
But there might be possibility that funds may not go to the right people with the right help. So what is our action should be here, or what do you think, what we should be thinking or doing?
Correct. So in those cases, try to find, you know, there may be other sources trying to help the same situation. Try to do what you can in the you know, in the best possible way. Ultimately, we cannot control everything, right? We cannot know everything, also the fact of everything, right? We still want to do something, and you know, we leave with a prayer to Lord that, you know, may these funds be used for the right cause. And you know, do your due diligence doesn't mean, you know, it's always, there is always a chance to get wrong in what we do, right? So in that, when we don't know 100%, we just pray to the Lord and do our best we can. You know, it not giving is a chance you don't want to take, where, you know, there is going to be further continued suffering, right, in the world. So yeah, it's a balance. So for example, in the recent corona cases, we know certain institutes, they are actually devotees, they are serving prasadam to all these people who are, you know, don't have any jobs in India because of COVID restrictions.
Yes.
You know, if ISKCON Food Relief has, you know, is a big sponsor of prasadam there, and also they are supplying oxygen now in some organizations, right? So we know certain reliable sources. So we know 100% this money here that I donate there is 100% utilized in the service of people. There is no in charge of a person who would use, because they're, you know, they know Bhagavad Gita, they cannot misuse it. So if we have a good source, don't worry about it, just give there. If you don't have a good source, you know, try to do some due diligence. If you have a gut feel that they are appropriate people, and pray to God and give it. And if you are a little bit doubtful and not sure, then don't give. It's okay, because you are very clear that, you know, there could be some misuse of funds.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, so those who are engaged in this process are known to be without desire for personal gratification. This is the key. No personal gratification. The sense of eternal servitorship to Lord makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. So this is a powerful statement. One who understands he is, you know, the son of Lord, servant of Lord, he is immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. Jasya sarve samarambha kamaka sankalpa varjita jnanagni dagda karmana tam ahu panditam buddha. Siddharth Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Can you read?
Yes. So one is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge.
So one who is understood, one is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire of. So this is the key, as I mentioned earlier also. He is in full knowledge, one who, because he clearly understands, I am just here in this world trying to clear off my debt of karma, right? So naturally all his actions are without any desire for gratification, right? Meaning I am the enjoyer, that spirit is gone from him. He is said by the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned by the fire of perfect knowledge. The knowledge that we have now, equipped with the verses that we have discussed so far, if one performs actions in that spirit, in that mindset, right, in that knowledge, for him all reactions are burnt. by the fire of perfect knowledge. Right? So that knowledge is important. Like what is action? What actions bind us to this world? How to act in a way that does not bind us to this world? Right? So this is the key understanding one should have, right? And how one can act without desire in this world, because it's so natural for us to desire. Action is motivated by desire for us, right? How to come out of it? So these are the practical. We have to think about it. How I can act in this particular situation without. We have to keep questioning. That's how we actually develop. Right? We can hear this. It's all good to know. We can quote these verses also, but ultimately we have to apply. How do I apply in my own situation? I'm working in so and so company, and he is my manager. He is my charter of work. How do I act without my own desire for sense gratification? I should have a plan on how I can act, and how my current actions, which are not aligned with this statement, how we should understand. We should do some kind of self retrospection. That's how we can implement these instructions, right? These are very powerful statements on how to act in this world without being bound by this world, because that's what we want, ultimately. Otherwise we're going to come back, which we don't want. Only a person in full knowledge can understand the activities of a person in Krishna consciousness, because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities. It is to be understood that he has burned up the reactions of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the servant, eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. So this is the understanding that should always be in our mind. I am servant of the Lord. I'm a soul. I'm not this body. I'm in this world, temporary. I'm in this temporary world. And everything around me is temporary, right? And the purpose of my existence in this world is to relieve myself of this temporary existence. One should be mindful at the time of wake up. When we wake up, we should remind ourselves. We should wake up with a prayer, praying to the Lord for giving another day to live in this world, and requesting Lord's mercy upon us to act in a way that we can, we act in that spirit of renunciation and spirit of a servant of the Lord. So in this way, we should pray every day. So when you pray, these prayers become part of your consciousness, and naturally over a period of time that becomes you, and you naturally act in that way. So now this is theory. We just understood these concepts. Now, how do I make this part of my life? That is the next transition we all need ultimately, right? Because theoretical knowledge is as good as theory until you practice, right? So ultimately, all of this has to be part of our life. And how does that happen? That happens through prayer, through contemplation, through through study, swadhyaya, to restudy of these concepts again and again, and discussing, asking questions about this. How can you can ask me, Prabhuji, how can I act in this particular situation in the right consciousness? So like that. So we fine tune, we in that way we mold ourselves to act in this way. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nityatato nirashraya karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti ya sa. Sri Vidya Mataji.
Yeah, Guru. Yeah, Prabhuji.
Yeah, can you read?
Yeah. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings.
See, this is a statement again repeated here. A person, now he's talking about a person who actually is a perfect karma yogi. So such a person, he is engaged in all kinds of activities in this world. He may be working for his family, or he's maybe serving his country. All kinds of actions he may be performing, but in his consciousness, he is completely detached from the fruits or results of his activities. Meaning he is not aspiring, oh, I should get like this, I should get a promotion, I should. It doesn't mean that he does not work towards that. If it comes or if it doesn't come, he's not affected. You see the difference? Or it doesn't mean that you don't act in a way that you don't really care what the result is going to be. That's a very fine line we should understand. He puts his best, he gives his best, puts his full focus in the work he does, right? Duty bound, but he is not disappointed when the result is not as he expected originally. Right? So such a person is ever satisfied and independent because he knows the actions that I am performing is ultimately for the pleasure of the Lord. I am just an instrument. Nimitta matram. Right? I am only nimitta. The ultimate cause is Supreme Lord. So in this case of Arjuna, Arjuna was an instrument in the hand of Lord. And Lord has a plan how to re-establish dharma. So he is just, whether he wins the war or he fails the war, that is not his concern. Right? He should give his best in the war, and Lord has a perfect plan. And in fact, he actually in 11th chapter, we discuss in 10th chapter, Lord says, I have already killed all these people. I have already killed. Now you just be part of this and get the fame of winning the war. I have already made all the arrangement. Everything is going to happen as per my plan and will. Nimitta matram bhava savya sachi, Krishna says to Arjuna. You just become instrument in this war and do as I prescribe to you. Right? And you win the war and you get all the glory. Yeah. So such a person is just like suppose you're a cashier in the bank. Sometimes you will get 100,000 or $100,000 deposit. Will you become very happy? Or some other day somebody will take 200,000 away from the bank. You are just duty bound to give or take money, right? You are not entitled to that money. Of course, when it is in your custody, you have to protect that money on behalf of the bank. But you are, as long as you perform your duty, you should be satisfied. You don't count well or you don't do your duty properly, then you should be thinking about it. But otherwise, if you are doing your duty dutifully, you should be happy and independent, meaning you are not concerned about the result as such. So when you act like that, right, you can act in every way. So the key point is you do not renounce the actions, but renounce the desire to enjoy the results of the actions. When you do that, you stay satisfied and independent, always fresh, and no mental trouble for you. You just act to your best capacity. Forget about the results. Do it as a service to Lord. Right? So such a person acts perfectly. Right? He may be acting in all kinds of activities. Right? You need not be a person who renounced the world and went to forest and gave up everything for the meditation on the Lord. You don't need to be like a sage. You can be in this world, act in this world, do all kinds of actions, but detach from the results of the actions. Right? Then you are perfectly situated. This freedom from bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness when one is doing everything for Krishna. Right? That is the easiest way. I mean, you can also be a pure Nishkama Karma Yogi, whereby you are just renounced about the fruits of action. But it's much easier if you have an anchor. A Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of God, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of action. One might think why Prabhupada always brings Krishna into every verse, right? This is a question I keep getting once in a while. The reason is simple. As you proceed further in the chapters, you will understand through various verses how Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And the process of bhakti is the easiest to practice, and that includes everything else, the results of every other process. So in that sense, the summary of Gita is put by Prabhupada in every single verse. So if suppose a person only has a chance to read one verse, he reads this verse and he still gets the essence of Bhagavad Gita. You see, that's the wisdom of Prabhupada. He knows very well. Actually, this verse is talking about specifically pure Nishkama Karma Yoga, but his purport explains in the direction of Bhakti Yoga, which includes Nishkama Karma Yoga, but he is doing it on purpose so that if a person only reads this verse, he gets the essence of Gita, because the essence of Gita is Bhakti actually. As you read further, because every principle can be easily practiced through the process of Bhakti Yoga, especially the 7 to 12 verses, 7 to 12 chapters, where we get a deeper understanding of how everything works. I used to wonder in the beginning when I read why Prabhupada would bring always Krishna into every verse. Later on I understood, actually I was told or informed that this is the purpose. Prabhupada brings the summary of Gita into every single verse.
So Prabhu, a question.
Hmm?
So any work, like there are two type of work. One is we go earn money, like our job, and we kind of get some results. Results is either a promotion or a monthly salary or appreciation. On the other side, the results could be boss may not like the work, you get fired, and so many things. Also, the second type of work is you come to temple, you contribute, you do some work, devotional activities, like cook the prasadam, all these things. And one can even think without reading Bhagavad Gita is, oh, I'm feeling satisfied because I'm cooking prasadam for Krishna and serving. So the enjoyment, he's feeling internal enjoyment. And then sometimes the prasad does not taste good. So when he's eating it, oh, it may not be, oh, I forgot salt, or this is really bad. How did I serve it? So again, it feels really bad and agony or like frustration or unhappy. So in both cases, how do I compare, okay, where I should apply the principles of this verse 20, where abandon all the fruitive actions? I know the second thing is actually inaction, not action, but I just want to get your inputs on how.
Yeah, you talked about two kinds of work, right? One is your responsibility towards family, where you work outside and earn livelihood and raise children and raise family and all, right? So that, and there you get, again, you said like different kinds of results, salary, name, or appreciation, rewards. So the point is, in all these situations, whether things happen as in the positive way or negative way, as long as you are giving your best while working for the company during those hours, are you giving your best, right? Because for the paid salary, if you are giving your if you are sincerely working without trying to cheat, if sometimes the result doesn't come well, that's okay, you accept it as your own karma, right? It does no. Our many times we see that sometimes we don't work that year very well, but still we get a promotion. And sometimes you work very hard and put a lot of effort in the project. Still, you don't get any promotion. In fact, you get scolding from your manager first. Sometimes it happens like that, right?
Yes.
We all
Yes.
have that experience.
Yes.
So in all these cases, we understand that the result is in not our control.
Mhm.
What comes as a result of our action is very clearly not in our hands.
Mhm.
Right? So it is according to our karma. But as long as you keep giving the right inputs,
Mhm.
right? So that is what is in your hands. And
Mm.
you keep doing that. Just because manager is unhappy, upset, you don't stop work, giving your best. You should not be disappointed and should not be, uh, you should never stop giving your best. As long as you keep giving your best, if not with this manager, somehow the universe will reciprocate with you.
Mm.
Okay, you understand that there are perfect laws in operation, right?
Mm.
Even though it may not be evident in your eyes with the immediate results that you are getting from the current action,
Mhm.
but there is universal justice and universal reciprocation. So
Mhm.
it's going to work out well as
Mm.
long as you keep steady work, right? You don't feel, sometimes up and down and waver from your duties.
Yes.
Keep giving your best. When you get good results, you are not
Yeah.
elated. You're not, oh, nobody is better than me. I'm the best in the team. And don't feel like that. Neither you think I'm the worst in the team, because both are because of false ego. Because you
Mhm.
think you are the doer. That's why you're thinking, I'm the best or I'm the worst, or both are not good. In either case, think, you have certain capacity, you are given certain abilities in this world,
Mhm.
right? And you try to do and say such a position is available to me by Lord's grace. I'm right now situated in this company. Keep giving your best.
Mm.
Your best. Your best need not be the best of the team. And there could be some people who can work less and do better than you based on their karma, right? So
Yes.
everybody is individual, everybody is different. There is no comparison with others, right? There is no question of comparison. It has no meaning, right?
Yes.
Because everybody has their own baggage of karma. It's very much possible that everybody else in your team is more in the current team, maybe smarter than you, and
Mhm.
they're more familiar and they can do better than you. In
Yes.
spite of all your good work, it's quite possible.
Yes.
And you move to a different team and your karma changes. This whole situation is such that you are the best, the kind of work and everything suits very well for us. It's all based on your past karma, how things, and what's in your hand is what you can give, and
Mm.
you keep giving the best you can, right? And the
Yes.
universe would reciprocate. Understand that, right?
Mhm.
So like that. And sometimes you have a direct service of the Lord, where you may be cooking for the Lord or serving the Lord, sweeping the floor in the temple, all the services you do, that is direct devotion service.
Mm.
And as long as you have proper consciousness, that is very liberating. In
Mm.
fact, it burns. So the direct service, this is indirect service. Both can be bhakti, whether you work for your family or work for temple.
Mhm.
But direct service, if done with proper consciousness, it has the result of burning lot more karmic reactions, because it is a direct service. It can it can go less chance of it going wrong,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Direct service has definitely more in terms of more result, in terms of clearing your bondage.
Yes, bro. Yes, bro. So anytime, like if we make mistakes, for example, like the prasad, we forgot adding salt or kind of anything, like, oh, food was not cooked enough or
Hmm.
something like that. So
Yeah.
how do we
How do
think?
we? So always we take retrospective of our actions.
Mm.
It's not to I'm only talking about feelings that I feel disappointed. No, always objectively see and see what you can improve. That's called retrospection, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
can always do that, and next time make sure you don't do the mistake, right? That's called learning, right?
Learning,
That is
right.
growth mindset. Growth
Right.
mindset is in action. It's properly allowed in Krishna consciousness. In fact, neglecting such thing and thinking that, oh, this is Lord service, many people have sentimental understanding. It cannot go wrong. Those are all foolish ideas, right? Those are not proper. We should always objectively see and see where you can improve and improve yourself. That's what giving your best means.
Right.
Always see where you can add value.
Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Right.
Thank you, bro.
And
Yes, bro.
because you have this proper consciousness that I'm not the enjoyer, I'm just instrument in this existence, you're always satisfied, you're always motivated, because fruitive mind is gone. The mind is not filled with fruitive mentality. Lot of anxiety is taken off. Now you perform, you give your best because you can focus on the thing, right?
Yep.
So now that's why this devotional mindset is very relieving and makes you very efficient. Why it makes you efficient? Because you're freed
With the anxiety of
the
thinking about it.
anxiety of thinking about the fruits.
Yeah.
That is a big relief.
Yes.
How many people in this world act in that consciousness? 80% of your energy is focused on what do I get in this.
Yes. Yes.
Now that is gone. Now you are like a nirashir nirmamo. You have no stakes in that. You do your best, right?
Yeah.
Still you want to do your best with all the capabilities that God has given you. Still act in your best capacity, but you're not attached to the fruits, right?
Yes.
So there is a saying, right? Do your best, leave the rest in the hands of God.
Yes.
As long as you do best, you worked your best, but
Yeah,
you didn't get a promotion, in your office, you have nothing to really worry about. Zero. You should not even think about why I didn't get promotion. As long as you give your best.
Yes, bro. Yes, bro. So wonderful, bro. Thank you for explaining nicely.
Very good. Everything is available in proper purport. I'm just rephrasing.
Hari Hari.
Yes. Yeah, see, this is the verse I'm talking. Nirashir yat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. Yeah. Uma Mataji, can you read? You can unmute and read. Uma Mataji, are you there? Okay. Varalakshmi Mataji, can you read? Oh, Uma Mataji, yeah, you unmuted. Please read, yeah.
Prabhuji, such a man of sorry.
Your son is reading with you. Yeah, one of you read.
Uma Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Who is reading? Varalakshmi.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of his possessions and acts only for does not affect actions.
Yeah. So thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So with this understanding that we discussed, right, about renouncing the fruits of action, if a person acts with that understanding, acting with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, meaning his mind and intelligence is filled with this idea very, very much, right? Gives up all sense of proprietorship. First thing he does is he thinks that he is only a trustee. Everything in this world, your money, your bank balance, your home, your car, your parents, everything you Do not think that you are the proprietor. You think you are a trustee. Trustee means a person who was in charge of certain resources, right? So trustee is supposed to act in the best interest, right? He's not supposed to act in his own self-interest, in the best interest of the parties, right? So a person, just like a trusted person who was given certain resources to use in the proper service, right? So similarly, everything in this world, understand that is given in your hands so that you can use with the proper consciousness for the best purpose it can be used for, right? So with that mind, you just act for bare necessities of life. You still breathe, you still cook, you still eat, you do all of that. That's where your goal ends. You don't think about how I can build, riches, or how I can you don't plan those things too much. You of course you still need to if some people want to retire early and do some investments, that is all fine. It doesn't mean that you don't act completely carelessly without thinking about your future of your children and family. When you don't have an opportunity to work, how do you lead your life? So that's all part of this plan only. But while acting in this world, still understand you are a temporary trustee in this world for everything, just so that you don't become too much lusty towards enjoying things of this world, right? And thus working in this way, he is not affected by sinful reactions. If you act like that, there won't be any reactions to you, right? Yeah. Next verse. Yadrishta lava santushto dvandvatito vimatsara samah siddhau asiddhau cha kritvapi na nibhadyate. Uma Mataji, you can read now.
He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of his own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions.
So very nicely put to here. So he who is satisfied with gain, which comes on its own accord, you put your best effort, whatever comes as a result of that action, you're not worried about it, right? Who is free from duality and does not envy. So he's free from duality, meaning he's not thinking about success and failed too much, right? Or it doesn't even have any thoughts about whether I would succeed in this effort or not. Does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure. So he doesn't consider anything as a personal failure or a personal success, right? He does his duty. Such a person is never entangled, all the performing actions. So the whole point is you can still work in this world, being engaged in various ways. But if you have right consciousness, then the world, you will not be bound by your actions to this world. And you stay satisfied with whatever gain comes on its own accord. Don't try to cheat and try to get, somehow get some promotion or, extra. Always, whatever you do your best, whatever comes, accept it. Don't fight, right? Of course, it doesn't mean that you don't fight injustice. If there is injustice, you clearly see that. Again, everything, there is a conditional statement there. You don't act unintelligently or foolishly also, right? Foolishly meaning, suppose you did some work in your office and somebody claims your work and gets promotion, for example, right? It happens, sometimes it happens. Is it wrong to complain? It is not wrong to complain, so that you will learn a lesson that you should not do such thing next time. So it's not that foolishly accepting, right? But whatever you bring forth those incidents so that these things don't repeat, but you don't feel that, oh, he took away my promotion, he is the cause of my suffering. Whatever comes to you, you do your right thing and be happy, right? Be satisfied. Understand that, whatever comes to you is what is due for you. So do not envy. So never envy why this person has more than me. Everything happens according to his karma. You never know what is coming in his life. Tomorrow he may get cancer. Who you think, I should have been like that, you think. But 2 days later you hear that that person got cancer. Do not compare yourself to anybody in any instant. You never know his baggage of karma. So there is no point in comparing and contrasting and feeling envy of anybody, because everybody is their own make. Everybody has their own baggage of karma, and our existence is to purify our karma, not to compare and envy. It serves no purpose, right? We should not compare our children to other children also. Again, doesn't mean that you don't teach anything. Again, everything has a balance. That's why we have to implement these principles with a lot of thought, not just take it in the face and try to apply in the way we understand, right? So we have to apply with a lot of thought. If required, clarify the position and but sometimes many of the principles are misquoted and misapplied, and they do not even realize that they're actually doing such mistakes. So that's where the problem is. So these principles are very subtle, and they have to be understood and thoroughly so that you can apply, right? So that's where practice comes, and contemplation on these instructions come to help us. Yeah, I think we'll stop here. 6:40. 22 we covered, and there are a couple more. I think there are a few more verses. Yeah. Thank you all. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Who didn't read today? Rani Mataji, Rinku Mataji. Next time you should read. Yeah. So no questions. Thank you all for joining. I hope this class helped you understand Karma Yoga a little better. Is that the right statement?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
It was very useful.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you all. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.